Welcome. We're on the red couch with Susanne Daniels. Susanne Daniels, owner of Restyled Life, is a coach, speaker, trainer, and a writer. She specializes in working with people who are reshaping, rethinking, restarting, restyling their life purpose, business brand, or career. Whether she's building community and creating connections, actively participating with programs that encourage women in personal and professional development, or working one-on-one with a client, she presents insight into today's challenges and the success strategies that will bring solutions to those challenges. Susie leads workshops on social marketing, blogging, and website design. She's a volunteer instructor at the Women's Resource Center of Sarasota and is both founder as well as president of the Sarasota chapter of the National Association of Professional Women. Susie, I am thrilled to have you here on the red couch.
I'm so happy to be here, Rachel.
Thanks for coming. So tell me, what was it like to grow up in Troy, New York?
Probably not a lot different than a lot of people who grew up when I did. It was a small city. Neighborhoods were compartmentalized into blocks. The church was on the block, the school was within walking distance, everybody knew everybody, and you couldn't get away with anything.
People would see you running down the street.
They'd see you running down the street, everybody knew how far your mother let you go, and if you weren't supposed to go by somebody's house, they caught you. People sat out on their front stoops. It wasn't a backyard neighborhood, it was a front porch neighborhood, and it was just a community.
Yeah. It sounded like it was a very tight community.
Very tight. Everybody knew everybody, what was going on in everybody's lives. You know, if somebody was sick, the soup came. If somebody needed anything, somebody came to help.
So that's a very wonderful place to grow up.
Yeah.
And you grew up with a very special mentor, a special guy.
Yeah, our house was, they call them flats. We had the downstairs flat, and my great aunt and uncle lived upstairs, and that was my Aunt Jo.
Tell me about Aunt Jo.
Oh my gosh, she was the most special person in my life. She's my great aunt. My mother was an only child, so all of my aunts and uncles were her mother's brothers and sisters, and there were 13 of them.
Wow.
And my great Aunt Jo never wanted to have children, and then one day just kind of focused on me and decided I was her project. And she never left my side. She was an amazing coach and mentor and encourager.
She was a suffragette, right?
She was a suffragette. She played organ at the silent movie houses. She was an amazing woman who did a lot of amazing things.
So what did she instill in you?
It's funny. I mean, my Aunt Jo, she had a television. She was so proud to have a television. This was in the 60s, and she made me watch Jeopardy, because she thought I would learn more if I was watching Jeopardy. And she would just whisper in my ear, don't let anybody tell you you're not smart enough. Don't let anybody tell you there's nothing you can do. And here's this woman who is probably my age when I came into her life.
Right.
Just, you know, saying, it was almost like she could see me in my future.
Wow.
And wanted to make sure I got there. So she was an amazing mentor, an amazing guide, and love of my life, my Aunt Jo.
And now she died when you were how old?
I was 11 or 12 when she died. Yeah.
But she's sort of still here with you.
She's still here with me always. You know, whenever there's that doubt, when you get that self-talk that's not positive,
Right.
I hear, don't let anybody tell you you can't do that. Don't let anybody tell you you're not smart enough. Her voice is always running. Yeah,
really
and thank
wonderful.
goodness, thank goodness.
It's great to have somebody like that.
I
We
think
all need
everybody
them.
should have somebody like that, absolutely.
I want an Aunt Jo.
Yeah.
So now, 10 years ago, something happened that changed your life.
Yes.
What was that?
I had a stroke. I had the first of 2 strokes 10 years ago. December 26, 2001. I was at work, and my right side went numb. I couldn't calculate numbers. I couldn't understand what the keyboard meant, and was taken from work to the emergency room. And it changed my life. It definitely changed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those life-changing events.
So can you back up for a second? I would just curious, like when you have a stroke, what happens? What happens physically?
Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, it actually, I believe, started the day before. We had gone, it was Christmas Day, we went to the movies. The movies were really super loud.
Yeah.
We went to see Lord of the Rings, and it was a loud, loud movie in a theater that decided to turn it up, and I started getting a headache, and I blamed it on the movie. And then later that evening, my hand, my thumb and index finger went numb or had like an electric feeling in it, like I had, like you bump your funny bone. The next morning, the headache was crashing, went to work anyway, and just couldn't figure things out. I couldn't remember what numbers were. Not just I couldn't remember numbers, but I would look at numbers and they meant nothing. I couldn't function. And my headaches, it was just pounding. The lights, it seemed like they were flickering on and off.
Wow.
And my right side went numb.
And how long did that last?
Oh gosh, it probably started around 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and lasted until well into the afternoon while I was still at the hospital.
So did they release you that day, or did
They released me that day because, I don't want to get all negative, but the doctor that I had, it was the day after Christmas, and the doctor said he was tired of women coming in with post-holiday stress syndrome, and that I just had a migraine and to go home.
Wow.
And I wasn't actually diagnosed with having had a stroke until New Year's Eve. So this was Christmas Day to New Year's Eve, is 6 days, and the damage continued to accrue.
Wow. And then you ended up having surgery.
I ended up having surgery to correct a problem with an artery that was causing the stroke, causing the problem.
So that's major surgery.
Major surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did it take to recover from that?
I was expected to be out of work for quite a while. I went back to work in 6 weeks. Now, my husband said it's because of my endearing qualities of impatience and stubbornness that I pushed, but I just kept pushing myself through. I just wouldn't I wouldn't stop.
Right.
I wouldn't stop. It was easier to recover from the surgery because that was just pain than it was to recover from the stroke and relearn math and reading and how to drive a car, which was harder on my family than it was on me because, you know, to be a passenger in a car with a first-time driver at age 43 years old.
Wow.
And it was a first-time driver. I had to relearn.
And tell me the story. After you were recovering, you were asked to speak.
Oh, that was horrible. Yeah, it was absolutely horrible. One of the women that I worked with, one of my best friends, actually the woman that I went to the day the stroke happened, I went and said, Anne, there's something wrong with me. And she said, oh, you're just trying to get an extra day, extra holiday. You know, you're not going home. And then she looked at me and said, what happened? And dialed 911 immediately. I mean, she knew that. So she was my best buddy at work, and she was going to be retiring. And I was asked by her to be the MC at her retirement event, her party, to get up in front of well over 100 people and lead this ceremony to you know, celebrate her time with the company. And I kept saying, oh, I can't do it, because my speech was very slurred at that time. My speech would slur, I would stammer, I would get lost looking for words. I was just, and I was very embarrassed by it, very embarrassed, because I wasn't who I was. I mean, I wasn't amazing or a genius before, but I was less than who I was, and I was very sensitive that people would see that. And Anne went and talked to another coworker who was a mutual friend, and she said, she came to me and said, Susie, let's go out and have lunch. And we had lunch, and she said, you know, Anne's really upset that you're not going to do this for her. And I said, but Chris, I can't do this. I'll die. I will die up there. I'm just, what are people going to think when I start stammering? And she said, they're just going to think you're drunk. So, you know, and she said, they're all going to be drinking. It's a party. They're just going to think you're drunk too. What are you worried about? And they were, I mean, and she was dead serious. And then I, you know, processed that myself and said, I would rather have people think I was drunk than disabled. And, you know, that's how my brain worked at that time. So I was like, okay, I can do it if people are only going to think I'm drunk. But the thing of it is, nobody thought anything because they were all so worried about how they were looking.
Right.
And so
happy that you were the one
so
speaking.
relieved that I was the one that had to be up in front of this huge room of people and not them. And that's what I kept hearing. Oh my gosh, I don't know how you can do that. I could never get up there.
So you ended up, because of the stroke, deciding you're going to change your life. You're moving to Florida from New York.
From New York to Florida. It changed my life.
But then when you got here, what did you find? There weren't a lot of groups that you didn't know.
I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody here. My husband, of course, moved with me, but I knew nobody, and it was lonely. I didn't realize how much community I had.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this interview on the Red Couch.